and stick with the New Orleans Saints, who, as we mentioned in the last segment, got that 26-14 win. Beyond everything else, because there are like 5 different things I want to get into in this game. Beyond everything else, great job getting a win. Very, very good for Kellen Moore to get his first win. Very, very good for Spencer Rattler to get his first win. Those two guys are kind of carrying that on their back, not having won. And that's tough. And you want to be rewarded from a lot of hard work. And this is a game that you absolutely, positively could win. And the Saints went out and won it. It was a game where they outplayed New York in every phase of the game, really, except for maybe starting things out. You got down early in the game. Giants went right down the field for a couple touchdowns early. But beyond that, I thought they were much the better. You shut out New York in the second half and really seized control of the game and got those 5 straight turnovers and stops. So I'm going to mention some things I did not like in this game, but I'm going to do that at the end. The most important thing is you got that win, and that's a big, big deal. Easier to get up and come in for treatment and film on Monday. Easier to lace them up and ready to get after it for practice on Wednesday. You needed this win. I did not want to see this mushroom to 0-5, 0-6, 0-8, 0-11. Like you don't want that. When you're trying to implement a culture, you're trying to turn an organization around and rebuild things, the vibes of things going way south way early are no good. And this doesn't mean that the Saints aren't going to have a really lopsided record this year, but it's just good to get one, and the Saints got one. Why'd they get one? Well, it starts with the 5 turnovers. And while I would suggest that fumbles are a little bit fluky, I did think that the Saints made some good plays. Brzee, DeMario, getting your hand in there and getting the ball free. Thought they did a good job of being Johnny on the spot and getting on them, but it's just an active defense that made things difficult on the Giants much of the day. You didn't see a lot of long runs. The long run for Scadaboo was 9 yards. You were talking about Jackson Dart. He threw for 202 yards and only completed 26 of his 40 throws. 2 of those were picked off by Kool-Aid McKinstry. Like, anywhere you look at the Giants offense, it was not very effective beyond their first 2 drives. Yep, they went right down the field a couple times. You saw Kool-Aid get victimized a couple times early in the game, one on the second touchdown that the Giants scored. Like, it was a bad start. It was a great finish from New Orleans. It was awesome to see Jonas Sanker get involved in a couple of big plays. That feels like, to me, the first guy that you can speak confidently about in this draft class that you really hit on. I feel great about Kelvin Banks, but Sanker's really making some plays and making an impact, and you didn't really know if he was going to get on the field this year, and then Tyron hangs it up, and you've got, unfortunately, an injury at safety, and so you're 2 safeties down, and boom, you get Sanker in the game to play, and he's really making the most of it. He's been in game-changing plays, turnover-worthy plays 2 games in a row now, and I really like the way that he's playing in the secondary. Kool-Aid gets his hands on a couple of balls. We talked to Ross about that in the first segment here that we did on the Saints, and that's a guy that has been picked on a lot in the first month of the season. No question. Been picked on a lot. And he gives up that first touchdown, that seam route, and you're like, geez, this guy can't make a play. They're just going right at him. And so for him to make a couple plays is great. I thought the second interception was a great play to read that on that in-breaking route, to jump it and make the catch with his hands. That's a really athletic play. The first interception, if we're being quite honest, he shouldn't have caught it. You're talking about losing 30 yards of field position on a 4th down play to catch that ball and run out of bounds at the 5-yard line. But we're taking baby steps here. If this is a playoff game, I really need you to make the decision to not catch that. In a situation where you're 0-4, you've never had an interception, and we got a 2-score lead, I'm going to live with it for sure. But it was good to see those 2 guys go out there and make some plays. That was great. The defense as a whole played awesome. Jackson Dart wasn't great in the win 2 weeks ago. The Giants picked Herbert off a couple times, and that's why they won that game up in New York. But the Saints were the ones that capitalized on those turnovers, and I thought that was great. And so by the flip side of that, there were 2 things that I loved about Spencer Rattler's day on Sunday. The first one, obviously, is the big play touchdown. You've got, statistically, the second best big play wide receiver in the National Football League over the last 5 years. It's Tyreek Hill, number 1. It's Rashid Shaheed, number 2. Rashid Shaheed, on that play, went 23 miles per hour, which was the fastest clocked time anyone in the NFL has run this year. So you've got a guy that is a difference maker. And to sit here and dink and dunk for 4 quarters every Sunday is a waste of his talent. And so finally, Rattler makes a big-time throw on a great route by Shaheed. They got a matchup they liked. He dropped it right in the bucket and allowed Shaheed to run. Rattler, to me, his biggest problem has not necessarily been decision-making this year. His biggest problem has been accuracy. He's been inaccurate on some throws. And to get a big catch and run, you've got to be accurate on that throw to hit the guy in stride and let him turn it up the field. And that ball was thrown right on the money to Rashid Shaheed, who turned it up the field and turned it into a big play touchdown that the Saints absolutely positively had to have. So I loved that. That's the first thing I loved from Spencer Rattler in this game on Sunday. The second was no turnovers. No turnovers. And you've got a Giants team that's turning the ball over every possession, and Rattler goes out there and doesn't turn it over.
There was another interception called back for a flag.
There was, but I'm looking at the final stat sheet.
I know.
And we like no turnovers. So it's you've got 2 young quarterbacks that are playing out there, and one of them is turning the ball over, and the other one is not. And that, to me, was the key to this game. The Saints weren't great on offense. It was what they didn't do that helped them the most. And that brings me to a couple of negatives in this game, because there was a lot of positive and they won the game, and I want to get to that first, but I can't just leave out the other stuff. Red zone offense stunk. Red zone offense was bad. 3 times in the red zone, no touchdowns. If you're going to tell me that you're not going to be explosive down the field, which the Saints have not been, and you're going to spend a lot of your time throwing the ball near the line of scrimmage, then let's go ahead and be efficient when it's a tight area to throw the ball when we get there. If that's what we're going to be good at, let's be good at that. And the Saints just didn't produce in the red zone. They couldn't run the ball very well. Kendra Miller averaged 4 yards a carry, had 41 yards. Kamara had 1 11-yard run. Beyond that, he had 7 carries for 16 yards. They couldn't get Taysom Hill going on the ground. He had a long of 2 on the 6 carries that he took. They did some things with him in the backfield, some direct snaps, as you would expect, and he actually threw a pass that worked out on a short yardage play. They'll get him more integrated into what they're trying to do at this point. Keep in mind, you were dealing with the Saints offensive staff for a while that had a lot of Taysom Hill experience, and then you used him a little bit last year before he got hurt, and now you got a whole new staff for the second year in a row offensively. They're probably trying to learn what they can and can't do with Taysom. That wasn't really effective, but you got to be much better in the red zone. And that brings me to the most concerning thing, to me, by a long shot from Sunday. Blake Grupe is missing every single weekend. Every single weekend. And you just cannot have that. I realize that a lot of these misses are coming from 50-plus. NFL kickers have to make 50-plus yard field goals, period. And you've got to situate, like, that position is one where you can have a guy for 10 years and not blink. Like, that happens a little bit in the NFL. You get a kicker that gets in there and he's a stalwart for a long time. That doesn't happen as much at a lot of different positions because you age out of your prime very quickly. So Grupe, theoretically, is one of the guys on this team that could stick around for a long time. But if he kicks like this, he needs to stick around for no more time, because these are not season-defining kicks. But by the time you get to be a good team, all these kicks define seasons. How many games in the NFL come down to 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, a kick with 8 seconds to go, a kick in overtime? These are wins and losses on the foot of these kickers. And Grupe is missing every single week. Sean Payton would have cut him already. Now, I'm not saying that's the right thing or the wrong thing to do. I just know it would have happened. And as I tweeted out yesterday, like, NFL kickers miss like 1 or 2 a month if they're like not that good. The great ones don't miss for a month. Grupe misses every Sunday. Misses a 52-yarder, misses inside a 50-yard. Like, he's missing every day. And all we heard about during training camp, and I'm confident these were not lies, is that Grupe was making everything. And that they like Charlie Smith, and he's a big talent, huge leg, but he's not going to make the team because Grupe's been great. Well, guess what? Grupe is not great. Grupe is probably, at this point, the worst kicker in the NFL. At least if you're going to go by the statistics. Guys don't stick around on teams when you miss 5 kicks in a month. And Grupe's still with the Saints. So either that needs to change now, or the Saints need to look at Charlie Smith. The beauty of what you've got right now in New Orleans, and it's a silver lining to a dark cloud, is that you have the ability to make some mistakes that aren't going to cost you the playoffs, that aren't going to set you back as an organization. And kicker is one of them. Sit Grupe for a week. Bring Charlie Smith up to the active roster. See what he's got. I don't have a lot of patience for kickers missing. I've got patience for a young quarterback figuring some things out. I got patience for a young guy on an island at cornerback figuring some things out. I've got patience for a rookie left tackle trying to deal with that defensive front from the Giants. I'll come up with some patience for Kendre Miller with his injury history. But a kicker needs to kick it through the uprights. And Blake Grupe missing every single week is simply unacceptable. So that's something the Saints have got to consider moving forward. But ultimately, very good win for New Orleans. 26-14. You force the 5 turnovers. You don't turn it over. Hit the big play finally. Blocked. I thought the offensive line did a nice job against a very talented New York defensive front. You did not have Rattler sacked in the game, which is great. It wasn't perfect, and I don't think much the Saints do this year is going to be perfect. But ultimately, you need to get that win. Got it done. I feel great for Kellen Moore. I feel great for Spencer Rattler. And I also feel great for those that were in the Dome yesterday, because I don't feel like you're going to get a lot of wins this year from those season tickets or from that ticket that you pick up on that Sunday morning. But they got one back on Sunday afternoon, and that's a good thing for New Orleans. 26-14 the final. 1-4 the Saints are. They will move forward to play all of a sudden a hot Patriots team. Can we say that? Hot Patriots team coming up Sunday in the Dome. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button. Leave your comments in the section below. And hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.